On this video, I'm going to get vulnerable, transparent, and give you a little backstory about my love and hate relationship with CHH. What's going on, y'all? My name is Ruslan. I'm a hip-hop artist, creative entrepreneur, spoken word poet, and I run a boutique label called King's Dream Entertainment here in beautiful San Diego, California. This channel exists to encourage, empower, inspire people to live out God's dream for your life. So we cover a whole lot of different stuff. But this specific video is probably way overdue, and I wanted to make sure that I took time to really gather my thoughts and share my heart in a way that was clean and followable and made sense. I don't even know if followable is a word, but I just made it work. Anyway, again, my name is Ruslan. If you're not following me on Instagram, you should be doing that. You should subscribe to this channel, turn your bell notifications on, and I gotta send a big shout out to all of our Patreon who hold us down by being monthly supporters. They get to cut the line for our Fan Love Friday music review. They get a Sunday night Zoom call with me where we talk about whatever they want to talk about. It's super dope. So if you're not a patron, consider becoming one. So Loom Hip Hop, an emerging hip hop blog that covers faith-based hip hop, Christian hip hop, whatever you want to call it, dropped an article not too long ago that I was extremely flattered and humbled by, and it was called The New OGs of Christian Rap. Now, maybe you see some of the familiar faces on there. For starters, you got the homie Lecrae. Shout out to him. Of course, Lecrae's been a pioneer, trailblazer in so many regards in terms of just taking this faith-based thing that we've been doing called Christian hip-hop, taking it to another level. Of course, Bizzle, God Over Money, another friend of mine who's responsible for artists like Dayton. He's been around for a decade. Derek Minor, who came from the Reach Camp, started his own label with Doc Watson called Reflection Music Group, Cannon, Byron, King Byron, all kinds of super dope artists that are signed to them. Daraj, doing a lot of really good work. The work him and Doc do behind the scenes is incredible. So I ended up on this list, which was really, I'll be honest, it was a bit shocking for me. It was shocking for me because if I'm honest with you, I've had a tumultuous relationship with CHH, with the Christian hip hop community. And I wanted to take a moment to just kind of break that down and give you guys some of my history and why I think that is. So for starters, I got saved in 2001, 2002. Christian hip hop wasn't really a thing yet. CHH wasn't really a thing yet. And when I got saved, it was pretty radical, pretty heavy conversion. And I ended up on MySpace. Excuse me, this is before MySpace. I ended up on mp3.com, which was like the SoundCloud before SoundCloud. It was super booming. I'm so bummed out that it popped, that it fell off, but it was really popping at the time. And I was on that website, and I came across this like Sphere of Hip Hop playlist that was really popping. I don't know if you'd call it a playlist, like a compilation or something. And it was on and through mp3.com, and then Sphere of Hip Hop had a message board. So that was my first introduction because I was a dude that did music before I got saved, and I had a radical encounter with Jesus, and then I transitioned and I started checking for Christian hip hop because at the time the only thing I had that had any kind of context of what CHH was the prayer and the Christian songs on the end of DMX's albums and Kurt Franklin. That was like my only context of anything music related to hip hop in the faith, if you will. And since then, I've had an incredible journey, and I've, done music and been full-time, and this will be the 4th year I'm full-time with music. I've built a 6-figure business doing this, which is incredible. We're hoping to continue building it, and I do this channel and our Patreon to kind of help support other artists, to give information. I didn't have a lot of good information coming up. A lot of people didn't know what was happening. This is before the internet really took over. This is before the days of Facebook, before the days of Twitter, definitely before the days of Instagram. And this is the climate. So I discovered this playlist. Shout out to Sphere of Hip Hop, Josh. They're still around doing things, Elect Records, cool stuff. So that was my first introduction, and I thought it was dope. I stumbled across The Truth on mp3.com. I was like, yo, this dude is spitting. He has some really good records. I slowly came across a ton of rats, and I came across guys like KJ52 and Gospel Gangsters, and then I really got into it when I actually ended up meeting Cross Movement. I met Cross Movement, Fanatic from Cross Movement, 2002 Miles Ahead Crusade. And I'm friends with Miles McPherson now. Miles McPherson, we used to throw these big crusades, outreaches in San Diego called the Miles Ahead Crusade. So I met Fanatic, and then a week later I met Red from Future Shock / Tunnel Rats. And it was just incredible. And so I loved what Cross Movement was doing, and I loved what the Tunnel Rats were doing, and I then discovered 4th Avenue Jones and LA Symphony and Pigeon John and KJ52, all these different acts. And it was a very interesting time because it wasn't super commercial. There wasn't a bunch of people making money yet. It was still kind of like the underground of underground. And that was something that we would kind of complain about. It's like we like underground hip hop is already a niche market, and then you're gonna have underground Christian hip hop. Like that's a niche within a niche. We didn't really think that people were gonna be making a lot of money off this. And as things kept progressing, what happened was they had this, I guess what people would now call as the golden era of hip hop, which I don't think was the golden era of hip hop at all. I'll tell you when I think is the golden era of hip hop at the end of this video. You got to keep watching. But the golden era of hip hop, which is where Cross Movement really exploded, really became mainstream. And then out of that, you saw Reach Records established, which was Lecrae's Rebel album. And then, you know, Trip Lee and Riding With My Top Down, listening to this Jesus music. That was kind of like the peak commercially. I remember Lecrae coming out, I think this is 2007, and selling 30,000 records. This was a big deal for an independent artist to sell 30,000 records. They had started with Cross Movement, went independent, and it was crazy. And at the time, it was a very interesting era, if you will. It was very theological. It was very Christocentric. It was very Jesus. And I instantly, as someone who rapped and was a Christian, didn't fit in. And I am an only child. I grew up kind of not feeling like I fit in. Instantly didn't fit in. Instantly was off. I just kept doing my thing. Me and Believe for a group called The Breaks at the time. So this is from 2005 all the way to 2012-ish. We were The Breaks. We kept doing our thing. We didn't really care what other people were doing. But what happened is we started kind of making relationships and building relationships with some of the guys from Cross Movement, like my man R. Swift. He was signed to Cross Movement at the time. To the 116 guys who I met through Wado. I first met Sho Baraka, DJ Official, R.I.P., amazing soul that really just had a unifying spirit. I had already known Propaganda from the Tunnel Rats, and so I was just spoiled to be a guy in my early 20s, young dude around talented people. And I will say this, and this is kind of an application point. Proximity matters. Proximity matters a lot. Being in proximity with other people who are creative, who are successful, who have similar passions and aesthetics as you do, does make a difference if you're aspiring to be an artist, a creative, an entrepreneur. And I saw what was happening with Reach grow and evolve and become something where I remember walking into some of their first offices and like, wow, they got an office building. And now their daggone offices in Atlanta look like the Google compound or something. It was crazy. And I remember being around for that stuff, and they were super gracious, and Lecrae was always very generous with his time. And he ended up letting me and Belief, as The Breaks, open up for him. So this is kind of like the second era. Cross Movement kind of faded out, and Reach was kind of the big dogs. And Lecrae was gracious enough, and the people over there, to let us open a couple shows for him. So we did like 3 or 4 shows opening up for Lecrae. We was hanging out. And I got hit with this epiphany that this is the peak of like the golden era. This is like Lecrae's starting to cross over a bit. CCM is taking an embrace of Christian hip hop. You got the Rock and Road Worship Tour. You have all these different outlets, and they were starting to like really pop off. And I was there, and I did some of these shows, and I remember meeting people after these shows. And at the time, me and my wife were going through our financial freedom journey. We were super into Dave Ramsey. We had started our Debt Snowball, and we were like, yo, we're putting our faith in action, and we're becoming debt free. And I have a video kind of telling the story about that. But what I found was I kept meeting hardcore Christian hip hop fans that had all their theology correct, knew all their John Piper and Paul Washer and Johnny Mack, and had all the checklist and the 5 points of Calvinism, and this is that era, right? Everything was Christocentric. And I remember talking to them after the shows, because I would actually go and take pictures and sign autographs with every single person who wanted to take a picture with me. And I remember talking to them and sparking conversation, and so many of them, their lives were in shambles. Their just what was happening was just a complete train wreck. They had really poor emotional boundaries, or they had really terrible finances, or whatever it was. And it seemed like there was a disconnect between what we said we believed about God, that we said we served this amazing, glorious, sovereign God, and actually being obedient to him in every area of our lives. And I was just kind of bummed out. And from that is where King's Dream Entertainment started from. I saw what Humble Beast was doing. They were taking off at this time. And I was like, yo, I want to start something that isn't just theological and rich, doesn't just do commercial Christian music and just turn up so we could jump around. All that stuff is cool. I'm not mad at any of that stuff. But I wanted to make music that was going to empower, inspire, equip people to actually live out God's dream for their life. And so that's where King's Dream Entertainment is. Funny, I'm wearing this hoodie. This is actually one of the first designs that we put together for the line. This is 2012. And I still, at this point, I definitely don't feel like I'm fitting in because we just weren't as preachy. We weren't as Christian. I don't know, but we were super faithful to our local church. We were, in Bible study every Monday. We weren't drinking. We weren't smoking. We were like really about, and we are, and I am, like, I really believe Jesus is who he says he is and died and rose from the grave. I really believe that. And I know that may sound crazy to some of you, but I really believe that. And so that's like kind of like the next phase. And then everything shifted. And as of late, people are like, yo, there's not enough Jesus in the music. We need to go back to the good old days, like that nostalgia, right? That nostalgic feeling. We need to go back to the good old days. And it kind of culminated today when I was going back and forth with somebody and they were talking about Christians using profanity or cussing. And I want you guys to know, before I say what I'm about to say, I am making a consistent effort to be to be the same person in every area of my life, meaning who I am with my friends, who I am on the mic, who I am with my family, around my 4-year-old son, Levi, is the same person. So I'm intentionally not using, PG or PG-13 cuss words in my music, as well as honestly just not even trying to use them in my day-to-day life. And it is a challenge sometimes. And they talked about people saying, oh man, well, you got all these Christian rappers who are cussing now. And I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Like, what are you talking about? And it was like, yeah. I said, like, people have always said damn, they've always said hell or hella, and they've always used the N-word. If you were black, this is back to like the LA Symphony. I've always seen it, the gospel gang. I've always seen that type of language used, and I also think some of it is regional. And I don't mean to like get on this point of profanity. I'm just giving you guys one example of what frustrates me with CHH. And I said, yo, RG, he had a quote unquote edited cuss word on his last album where he said, I don't care about politics. They're saying all this stuff. Jesus was an immigrant, but no one really seems to give up. And he edits it. And I said, if RG's line was not about political policy, policy on immigration, but was about abortion and how the abortion policies in America are terrible, and that's what the quote unquote edited cuss word was for. I said, no, people, there wouldn't be no outrage. People were like, yeah, abortion is evil. But because he said something that was, I guess, more of a liberal issue, it created outrage. And so now there's this like, we need to go back to the good old days of CHH. And here's the deal. The good old days weren't that good. They weren't that good to me. They weren't that good to a lot of these artists that you see popping and blossoming. And the shift that happened, I think, needed to happen. And maybe it went a little bit to the other extreme of trying to be too mainstream, trying to be too commercial, trying to reach too many people that were far from God. But I think it needed to happen. And I think it's a great thing. And I think it's an awesome time where we are. When I look at this graphic and I see Bizzle, and as openly and unapologetically Christian as he is, and the favor he has with guys like Steph Curry, I see Lecrae, who's an icon in the Christian space, period. Derek Minor, the favor they're getting in the NBA, the stuff that him and Doc are doing, the playlisting, all that kind of stuff on Spotify, like their partnership with Empire Distribution, which is a big deal. If you don't know what that is, I just get kind of frustrated and like, yo, it's not that serious. Like, stop complaining, because this is where I kind of want to give you guys some context. 10 years ago, and I don't mean to rag on the Reach guys, those are the homies, but 10 years ago, they dropped the April Fool's joke. It was like 2008, 2009, maybe as early as 2007. I don't remember what year. And the April Fool's joke was that Reach Records signed a girl group, and they thought it was funny. In hindsight, with the hashtag CHH sexism thing, it wasn't really funny. And that just kind of gives you a reflection of how crass the culture was back then. That like there was no, like, it was a joke that anybody would sign a Christian rapper girl, right? It was a joke. There's something that the community laughed at. I didn't really think it was funny. Like I at the time I was like, yo, this is kind of weird. Like that's a joke. Why not sign females? You know what I mean? Why not give women platforms and all that kind of stuff? And it was intertwined with that like theological slant of like women can't preach from the pulpit and da 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 da. Women can't be pastors. even though a rapper and a pastor ain't the same thing, but that's neither here nor there. And now, praise God, amazing turn of events. They signed Wande, who's dope. Shout out to Wande, super fire. Female, but I don't even call her a femc. I think she's just an amazing artist, amazing person. I know her personally. She's solid, you know what I'm saying? And the Reach guys are solid. And so now you see everything coming full circle, and I think this is the golden era of CHH, and I love what's happening. And so, no, I don't brand myself as a Christian rapper. You're not gonna find that in my bio. You're not gonna go to kingsdreament.com and say Christian hip hop boutique label, because I think that those titles do and can limit your audience if that's the first impression people have of you. However, I see CHH not as a genre, but as a community. And the relationships I've been able to build in this community with guys like DJ Wado behind the scenes, with guys like Doc Watson, with guys like Derek Minor, with guys like Lecrae, Bizzle, the guys on this Loom Hip Hop article is amazing. And so my love and hate relationship, man, is that I think the fans are sometimes very zealous, but kind of major in the minors and don't quite understand what's happening. And once it spread and became more suburban and less urban, once it became, you know, the internet took over, it helped to blossom and get way more eyeballs. Today, right now, I almost get 100,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. I was just at 100,000. I'm thinking like 93,000 right now. Hopefully after I drop Indie Jones 3, it'll be even more than that. But I say that to say this. I say that to say that today I'm reaching more people than I've ever have. Some within the Christian hip hop community, in the Christian audience, and some outside of it. And it's an amazing time to be making music. But we can't be so limited by the minor details. Listen, in my music and my art, I'm not playing anything around my son. I'm not saying anything that I can't say in front of my son. That's my moral gauge. But there are guys out there that, you know, they want to take some liberty and they want to do certain things. And I'm not talking about like wilding out and glorifying evil and saying good is evil and evil is good. I'm talking about the What Up RGs, the No Big Deals, the Foggy Raws, who some people may or may not consider a part of the CHH community. I do, because he's a part of my community. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a beautiful community, and I think we need just that diversity, man. And so I think this is the golden era right now. So don't miss it. Don't miss it tripping about how things were 10 years ago or 15 years ago, 20 years ago. This is an amazing time to be making music, period. The doors that guys like Reach and guys like RMG and guys like God Over Money has opened is incredible. The technology advancement of being able to make videos and have conversations about this is incredible. So take advantage of this opportunity, man. And so I want to hear from you guys in that comment section. What do y'all think, man? Like this is just my personal opinion. It's not absolute, just what I think. I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. What's your relationship like with CHH? Is it absolutely a genre? Does it have to be Christocentric? Do you even know what CHH is? Because we get a lot of folks that don't follow Jesus on this channel, and I'm super happy that you're here. What do y'all think about this from the outside looking in? There's so much more I want to talk about on this topic, and as I'm embracing my role of quote unquote OG of Christian hip hop, which I'm humbled by, I think I will. My man Belief has been encouraging me to speak more about this stuff, and I think I'm starting to and really getting comfortable as seeing myself as kind of an elder statesman. And I'm humbled by that. And I want you guys to know that I'm humbled by that. And I'm grateful for CHH. So whatever I may or may have not said in the past, or however I may or may not, quote unquote, brand myself or whatever, just know that my heart is for this community. I make it an effort to show love to this community. And this community holds a very, very near and dear place in my heart. So thank you so much for watching this video. I truly appreciate every single one of you guys. If you want to support what we're doing, stay tuned. Indie Jones 3 is on the way. Right after that, my man John Keith is dropping an album. My man Paulie Russ got a crazy album out. I don't sleep. And I can't forget all the Patreon who helped make this channel happen. Appreciate you guys, man. Thank you so much. Peace.